What's going on, everybody? Kaleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for the Samsung Galaxy A04s to help you make the most of the camera features. Now, as always, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the various links in the video description, where you can find several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a quick way to actually get to your camera. Now, of course, opening the camera app on the home screen is easy enough, but if you're doing something else on your phone, like maybe you're browsing the web, for example, and you want to capture something quickly in the moment, no matter what you're doing on your phone, to open your camera, all you have to do is double press the power key like this, and it's going to open right up. So let's try that one more time, this time on an app. And there we go. And one final time, this time I'm actually going to lock the phone. So as you can see, it is locked right now, and double tap. And there we go. So as you can see, definitely a real nice shortcut to have. Now I'm going to show you how to turn on the grid lines. When you're taking a lot of pictures, the grid lines are definitely really useful. I don't know if it's just me, but I personally have the grid on pretty much every phone I use, even on my personal phone for that matter. So in general, if you are taking a lot of pictures and you want to get something right in the center, or maybe you just want to make sure things are in line, whatever the case may be, the grid lines are definitely a real useful tool, and they're super easy to turn on. All you have to do is go up here to settings, and from this menu, grid lines are going to be right here. Toggle it on, go back to the camera, and as you can see, the grid lines are now on. Now I'm going to show you how to use the macro camera. Now it's kind of funny, I feel like the logical place to put the macro camera, especially since this phone doesn't have an ultra wide camera, is right here, but this is a completely different thing. But regardless, the macro camera is still real easy to get to. From the main camera screen, what you're going to want to do is hit more. Then from here, macro mode is right here. And we are now in macro mode, where you can get some real close-up detailed images. And real important, when you're done with macro mode, be sure to go back, otherwise all your other pictures are going to be blurry. The next thing I'm going to show you is a quick way to zoom to 2x. Now back to this little 2 right here. Despite it being kind of weird that it's there instead of macro mode, when I was taking test photos, I actually did find this feature to be pretty useful. So if you're ever in a situation where you need to zoom, all you have to do is hit the 2 right here, and it's going to go right to 2x. And as you can see, there are also several other options here too. So despite not being the most insane camera feature ever, it definitely does make zooming in and out a bit easier. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to get high efficiency photos and videos. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, with 64GB of internal storage and microSD card expansion, storage really isn't a problem with this phone. But as of the recording of this video in February of 2023, this phone hasn't quite yet made it to US carriers, and I have a strange suspicion that when it does, it might have a bit less storage. So if that does end up being the case, and you are taking lots of pictures, recording lots of videos, let me show you an easy trick to save a lot of space. So what you're going to do from the main camera menu is go to settings, and there are 2 different spots we're going to go to. The first thing you're going to do here is toggle on high efficiency pictures. With this on, when you take a photo, instead of being a JPG or a JPEG, it's going to come out as an HEIF file. This file is going to be a bit smaller, so if you're taking a lot of pictures, it's going to save you a bit of space. Next, we're going to go down, and under videos, toggle on reduce file size. This is basically the same kind of thing but for videos. So with it on, instead of MP4s, it's going to have your videos come out as HEVC files instead. Now in terms of compatibility, some people might have some concerns. I personally use this feature on every device I have. In fact, for my iPhone 13, it does it by default, I think. So long story short, in real life, for things most people are going to be doing with their photos and videos, you're not going to have to worry. But if you have a really specific purpose for your photo or video, then depending on the program or website you're using, it may or may not be compatible. So if you are in that kind of situation, I would definitely check before using this feature. But again, for most people, these formats should be fine and they will save you quite a bit of space. Now I'm going to show you how to customize your quick access bar. Now by default, you're going to have portrait, photo, and video mode, but you can actually change this. To do this, what you're going to do is go to more. From here, hit the plus icon. And from here, you can pretty much add and remove whatever you want. So say you don't really use portrait mode, what you're going to do is press and hold, drag it up here, let go. And there we go. And now the only thing we have is photo and video mode. But say you like to use macro mode a lot, what you can do is press and hold, drag it on here. And that's pretty much it. When you're done, hit save. And there we go. Now I'm going to show you how to change your aspect ratio. Now by default with the Samsung Galaxy A04s, like pretty much any smartphone, the aspect ratio is going to be 3:4, or I guess 4:3 if you go in landscape. But we do have a few different options here. So to change your aspect ratio, what you're going to do is hit this icon right here. And as you can see, we have the option between 3:4 9x16, 1x1, or full, which in the case of this phone is going to be 20x9. Now another thing I do want to talk about is 3x4 at 50 megapixels. So if we go here, this is basically going to allow you to use the full power of the camera. So by default, when you're just taking pictures in normal photo mode, you're not actually using the entire 50 megapixels. But if you really want to take a super high definition photo, you can go into this mode, but keep in mind, while the pictures are going to look a little bit better, they are going to take up quite a bit more space. So if you're trying to be more efficient, then this is probably not something you're going to want to do. And honestly, in practice, while it is kind of a cool feature, I feel like the difference isn't really that much. I mean, if you're just taking pictures for like social media, for example, something like an Instagram photo, it's probably really not going to make a difference. So I personally don't use it myself. I mean, the regular photo mode is just fine. But again, keep in mind, if you really want to, this mode is here, 3x4 at 50 megapixels. That is going to allow you to use the full power of the camera. So while I feel like it's kind of more of a novelty than anything, it's still a cool option to have. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to take a burst shot. Now, in case you don't know what it is, a burst shot is basically a bunch of photos taken pretty much together, and then you can pretty much just choose the best take between all of them. Definitely a nice feature to have, especially since this phone, for whatever reason, doesn't have live photos. So if you're trying to get a picture of something in motion, a burst shot is pretty much your best option. So taking a burst shot is real easy. All you have to do is pull down the shutter like this. And that's pretty much it. It can go up to 30, I think. Yep. And now if you go to the photos, as you can see, the burst shot is right here. If you tap on this, you can see all the different takes. And that's pretty much it. Now, that being said, taking a burst shot is actually not the only thing you can do by pulling down the shutter. So let me show you. What you're going to do is go to settings. And from here, as you can see, where it says swipe shutter to, by default, it is going to take a burst shot. But if you tap on this, you can actually have it take a GIF instead. So if we go like this, go back to the camera, swipe down, and now, as you can see, we have created a GIF. Now, I'm not really sure what the value of this is. It doesn't really look very good in my opinion, but if you ever do want to use it, keep in mind, the option is always there. Now I'm going to show you a feature called floating shutter button. This is basically going to put a second shutter on the screen. So if you're trying to take a selfie, for example, at a weird angle, it makes the shutter a lot easier to reach. So to get to this feature, go to settings. From here, go to shooting methods. So right here. And from here, as you can see, by default, floating shutter button is going to be off. But if you turn it on, go back to the camera. As you can see, now there's a second shutter and you can drag it wherever you want on the screen. So like right here. And it basically works just like a normal shutter, except you can't take burst shots with it. But other than that, pretty much everything else, you can take pictures, press and hold to record a video, or not. Then when you want to get rid of it, all you have to do is go back to the settings. From here, go back to shooting methods, and toggle it right back off. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is actually in this same menu, and that's what you can do with the volume keys. So as you can see, at the very top of this menu, where it says press volume keys to, by default, it's going to take a picture or record a video. So if we go back to the camera, by default, if you press either volume key, it's basically just going to be like a physical shutter button. So there we go. Pretty cool feature, honestly. But if we go back to that menu, so back to shooting methods, and tap on this, as you can see, we have a few different options. In addition to taking a picture or recording a video, you can also zoom in or out, or control the system volume. So let's try zoom. Go back to the camera, and now volume up is going to zoom in, and volume down zooms out. So pretty cool. But this concludes my camera tips and tricks video for the Samsung Galaxy A04s. Again, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description, where I will be linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.